Welcome back to another Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because, well, we are looking at something truly fascinating. Today, we're breaking down the mechanics of a brilliant piece of short fiction called The Ghost Town. Now, we aren't just going to sit here and read it. We are going to completely dissect it. We're mapping out the exact chronological suspense mechanics the author uses to grip our attention, build this unrelenting dread, and then deliver a psychological twist that literally lingers long after the story is over. Whether you're an aspiring writer trying to master pacing or just a huge fan of a good scare, understanding exactly how this trap is set is going to completely change how you read suspense. Let's get right into it. Leave.
Imagine hearing that single breathy word whispered in this chilling cadence inside a house that has been empty for decades. That is the exact moment the reality of Black Hollow snaps into focus. But actually, before we get to that terrifying warning, let's take a step back. Let's look at how the author actively pulls us into this mystery in the first place, setting a trap that we willingly walk right into.
Okay, let's dive into this. Every great suspense story has to start by grounding us in a specific reality before absolutely tearing that reality apart. The narrative immediately hooks us with our protagonist, Daniel. He's arriving at a place called Black Hollow exactly as the sun is setting. Right away, you have that classic lighting shift from day to night, signaling a transition into the unknown. We learn that Black Hollow is the subject of a massive urban legend. It's a town where every single resident vanished simultaneously in one single night. It's an incredibly compelling setup that naturally invites Daniel and us, the audience, to investigate.
Now, to make this setting really work, the text doesn't just lazily say it was spooky. It gives us three very specific, highly evocative details: empty houses, abandoned shops, and a church with a broken clock. That last detail, absolutely brilliant. A broken clock doesn't just mean no one is around to do maintenance. It symbolically tells us that time itself has stopped in Black Hollow. This establishes an atmosphere of total, crushing isolation. It is a town completely frozen in time, just waiting for someone to disturb the dust. I want you to imagine walking right alongside Daniel as he makes the fateful decision to cross the threshold. He passes through a rusty gate, and immediately the sensory cues shift. The wind begins to howl, yet somehow, beneath that wind, the streets are dead silent. The roads are choked with dust, and old newspapers are scraping across the ground, described perfectly as moving like frightened animals. These aren't just random descriptions, they are meticulously placed environmental cues designed to build early dread. The environment itself feels hostile, almost anxious.
So Daniel enters the first house he finds, and the author masterfully shifts the horror from the macro, an empty town, to the micro. Inside, Daniel doesn't find a monster jumping out of a closet. He finds an old table with a cup still sitting on it. He sees a family photograph hanging just a bit crookedly on the wall. This is what we call domestic horror. By showing us items of everyday, interrupted life, the supernatural threat suddenly feels deeply grounded and immediately uncomfortable. Someone was literally in the middle of drinking from that cup when they were taken. It implies a sudden, inescapable event.
And that brings us right back to that whisper. Daniel hears the word leave, turns around and finds nothing. And then the dead silence is broken. Step, step, step. He hears slow, deliberate footsteps coming from upstairs. This brilliantly illustrates the power of auditory tension. It forces our protagonist to move toward the threat rather than away from it. The pacing of those individual steps deliberately slows the reader's heartbeat down, matching Daniel's terrifying climb up the stairs toward a room with a slightly open door.
Inside that room, he finds an old diary and reads its final, chilling entry. "Tonight, the town will disappear. The spirits are coming. We must leave before midnight." Talk about a game changer. Up until now, Daniel was just exploring a creepy, atmospheric location at his own pace. But this single quote suddenly injects a terrifying, high-stakes deadline into his exploration. It's no longer just a fun mystery, it's a countdown.
Let's move along and see how this builds our timeline. This discovery instantly creates a terrifying frame of reference. Daniel checks his watch. It is exactly 11:45 p.m. Think about the mechanical genius of this pacing for a second. He arrived at sunset, spent hours slowly wandering in the quiet dark, and now, the very moment he realizes the danger, he has exactly 15 agonizing minutes left until the climax. The luxury of time has been violently ripped away from him, and the suspense is dialed up to a 10.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the author creates a jarring, instantaneous contrast to signal the arrival of the spirits. A freezing cold wind rushes into the room, and suddenly, the lights of the entire town flick on. Remember, this electricity has been disconnected for decades. The transition from a silent, dead, pitch-black town to a brightly illuminated, buzzing environment is a massive shock to the system.
Daniel sprints outside, and his rising panic is mirrored perfectly by the sudden acceleration in the narrative pacing. The empty streets are instantly populated. Shadowy figures are standing in front of every single house. They're dressed from another time with pale faces and eyes that literally glow in the darkness. The threat is no longer a creepy, crooked photograph or a phantom footstep. It is everywhere. It is visible, overwhelming, and surrounding him on all sides.
And then the auditory countdown begins. The church bell, yep, the same church that earlier had a broken clock, begins to loudly ring out the time. 1, 2, 3. Each toll of the bell acts as a rhythmic hammer of entrapment. Daniel runs for the rusty gate he entered through, only to face the horrifying realization that the gate has completely disappeared. He is trapped inside the mechanism of the ghost town.
The clock strikes 12, and the author does something incredibly smart here. A strategic pause. For one singular moment, despite all the figures and the ringing bells, everything goes dead silent. Out of that silence, a little girl with an old lantern appears right in front of Daniel. She points to the forest and whispers an urgent command. Run, before they remember you. It's a terrifying implication, right? The spirits haven't quite registered his presence yet, but the second they do, he is going to become part of the town forever.
Daniel doesn't hesitate. The text moves at breakneck speed as he sprints blindly into the dark forest. The tension just explodes as he hears hundreds of footsteps detach from the town and begin pounding through the woods right behind him. The cardinal rule of escaping a supernatural threat is executed perfectly here. He never, ever looks back. The sheer adrenaline of this sequence forces the reader to mentally sprint right alongside him.
So the crucial point here is the total erasure of the threat. Daniel finally stops running. He reaches the safety of the main road just as the sun rises. The night is over. But when he turns around to look at where he came from, Black Hollow is completely gone. There are no empty houses, no broken clocks, just an empty field. The total erasure of the threat provides a massive, sudden sigh of relief. The danger has vanished with the sunrise, leaving only a surreal memory.
You'd think the story would just end there, right? A close call, a spooky night. But this is where the author plays their final, most devastating card. We jump forward in time, years later. Daniel has kept his silence. He's never told a single soul about that night. He brought nothing back with him except for one single photograph. Just one picture he snapped outside the town before the horror even began.
And this is the ultimate psychological twist. When Daniel looks at this old photograph, he notices the little girl with a lantern standing in the deep background. But it doesn't stay a static image. Every single year, on the exact anniversary of that night, the photograph changes. The girl moves a little closer. This is an absolute masterstroke of horror. It takes a past memory, something fixed and supposedly safe, and transforms it into an active, escalating threat that literally creeps up on him year after year. Until one night, he looks at the photo and she is standing right behind him.
It's a conclusion that completely shatters the illusion of safety we felt at sunrise. Daniel thought he escaped, but he really only delayed the inevitable. The mechanics of suspense in the ghost town teach us that true dread isn't just about the immediate chase. It's about the relentless, slow-burning promise that you can never truly outrun what you've seen. Which leaves us with a lingering, pretty unsettling question to end our explainer today. When the past finally catches up to you, what will it remember? Thanks so much for learning with me today. Keep asking questions, keep analyzing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.